Good morning and welcome to My Left Ear. I'm Carrie Freeman. It is December 9th, video 67. And this is political and psychic commentary for those who have never found me before. And if you like the content, please subscribe and please hit that like button. It's very important. That's why you hear this over and over from other people. So what am I? I do psychic coaching, I write, I've written a couple of books, and I have been a clinical hypnotherapist for over 20 years. I developed this YouTube channel during COVID as a way to remain creative and communicate and maybe contribute something. And lastly, this is for entertainment purposes only. Now I'm starting a little differently today because I've just been reading the energy out there, and I'll talk about Twitter in a minute. And I was inspired by something that I found a long time ago, a little parable, and it has a purpose based on what I've been observing. Maybe you've heard it before. It's so simple. I love it. So I'm just going to read you this little parable like it's a short story, but it's really short. So do not worry. I'm going to get into content. This is called Two Wolves. Okay. So here's the story. One evening by the campfire, an old Cherokee Indian told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside many people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside of all of us. One is evil. It is anger, fear, jealousy, regret, greed, arrogance." And it goes on and on. False pride, superiority, and ego. The other is about good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, kindness, empathy, generosity, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about it for a moment and then asked his grandfather, "If there's a battle, which wolf wins?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one that you feed." So what I've been noticing is that the mainstream media and some individuals who are very passionate have been feeding the black wolf. And I want to just caution that we be careful. And I've just seen a lot of this on Twitter, so I'm bringing it up. It was inspired moment. And in terms of everything we're seeing, witnessing, watching, the wackiness, I had this thought the other night. I went, this whole story with all these players and characters in government, it's like an epic mini-series, isn't it? I mean, who would play Marjorie Taylor Greene? Who would play Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi? I mean, it's really interesting to think about. All of those parts would be cast. I had another thought this week, and then I'm going to get into the politics. When I was thinking about doing this YouTube channel, I was thinking about, well, what do I call it? As it happened, My Left Ear came in so clearly, so immediately, that it was a no-brainer. But there was a short period where I thought about calling it Opinions Unlimited. And there's a backstory here. I had a dear friend, Karen. I've mentioned her on the videos before. She passed away from cancer about 5 years ago. We were very close friends from the time we were like 17 years old. And we used to have lots of opinions. We had these conversations, and we'd have opinion after opinion. And we made jokes about, why don't we just set up a little table in the middle of Beverly Hills or Hollywood and call it Opinions Unlimited, and people just could walk up and ask our opinions. So I think we were way ahead of our time. And what I've noticed, I've always loved Opinions Unlimited. And isn't it true though, Isn't this all these sites? Aren't we just opinions unlimited? And Twitter is certainly opinions unlimited, sometimes very loudly. Now, you know, the video I was going to make, this is video 67, and my intention was to make a very short video talking about Matthew Dowd running for Lieutenant Governor of Texas. And when he announced it, I was very excited. I've been watching him, listening to him, and he has been making more articulate sense than most of the candidates I've been watching, or many. He emerged as very insightful, spiritual, strong. And I went, I don't live in Texas. I was born in Texas. And I want to do anything I can to get Matthew Dowd to win lieutenant governor. And also, I feel the same way about Beto O'Rourke. But Matthew had really touched me, and at some point, he started following me. And if I would make a statement, he would write me and say, thank you. And I just think people who do that are in high levels of power, are so intelligent and smart because they gain favor. I mean, I certainly thought even more of him because not all people like that are very visible will follow you. But there are some that are on MSNBC that really care about you and me and the things we say. And I've been followed by some really cool people. But here's the thing, my left ear kept saying, no, do it tomorrow. No, do it tomorrow. And then was it yesterday or the day before? I apologize, I can't remember. I opened up Twitter and Matthew Dowd announced that he was not gonna run. He had changed his mind. He was stepping down. So I never made the video for him. I don't really comprehend all the reasons, because he would have been so good for Texas. But he said that there are other more diverse people running. So there it is. I still really like Matthew Dowd, but I have to accept what he decided. Here's a comment about Joe Biden and Putin and their 2-hour conference. Biden was well prepared. He was well prepared. And essentially, over the course of 2 hours, he gave Putin an old-fashioned what for. It's a term I really like. And the what for, was about money. If you move your troops into Ukraine and start battle, because thousands of Russian troops have been lined up outside of Ukraine, implicating that there's going to be an attack. He wants to take over Ukraine. So other countries aligned with Joe Biden, and they agreed to join a financial boycott. Well, Putin, although he's wealthy, can't really afford to be blacked out if he makes this move. So it appears that he's backed off. And I want to say, mainstream media has been not very nice to Joe Biden. They've been really looking to criticize, to bring him down, to make him look like a loser. And he's not. And I always say, he's not perfect. We've never had a perfect president. There never will be a perfect president. But if you saw the list of all the things that Joe Biden has gotten going, it's damn impressive. And it's within the first 6-7 months. So my left ear wants to say, despite the current mainstream media, history will be very kind to Joe Biden. Now I'm going to go from Joe Biden to the bottom of the heap, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. He's a sadist. I used to shy away from the word sadist and sadism, and it came up a lot after Donald Trump got elected. I was kind of avoidant, and now there is truth in it, and I hate to admit it. There are people that enjoy the suffering of others. They enjoy it. And, we know the ex-president is built that way. other people are built that way, but Ron DeSantis is built that way. Now, I want to give credit where credit is due. I did watch Milo. Hi, Milo. I enjoy you. And Milo, I think, was very upset, as I am, that DeSantis has decided not to renew licenses to businesses that help migrant kids. And he has 2 children. And on top of that, he wants to activate his own militia, which sounds paranoid to me. I don't think he'll accomplish it. But there's the sadism, not renewing licenses to businesses in Florida that help migrant children. It's unbelievable, and I don't know if the federal government can step in to help or if they would. So I threw a rune on DeSantis about, like, what's his future? Because my left ear thinks Ron DeSantis will be beaten as governor and Abbott in Texas will be beaten. But here's the rune. It was the rune of separation. It's reversed. So the rune says, you may be called upon to undertake a radical departure, I want to say from office, from your old ways. He would have to, but he won't. He's not capable. It's not how he's built. It'd be like asking Trump to change. And his unwillingness to see and look within will cause great pain to himself and to others. So he's not going to be successful. And I think we should feel really good about that. So now we've got in Texas this guy, Dan Crenshaw. And I have to admit, I meant to look up his actual title and I forgot. So I'm apologizing to you because I really do a lot of writing and research. In this moment, I forgot. Anyway, he's the guy with the eye patch. And he is GOP. And so he's kind of known to be a showboat and all kinds of stuff. It would be good to get him out of Texas, but he spoke the truth this week and he called out the Freedom Caucus. Now, strangely, the Freedom Caucus is Lauren Boebert, whom I call Bobo, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Matt Gaetz. 3 losers and showboats. They're not legislators. Now, Dan Crenshaw just say they're showboats. They don't legislate. They're not really part of the grand old party. And he really laid it out there. And that's the beginning. I think Dan Crenshaw, and I don't like him. I'm not suggesting you like him, but he spoke the truth. And it's kind of an irony that it came out of him. He's also projecting, okay, because we know about projection now. We shouldn't trust him, but he spoke the truth. Now, a lot of people came out on the media praising him, and I do want to give him credit for speaking the truth. However, I think he did it to position himself. I think it was a tactical comments that he made. So there we go. Now, as you may have noticed, Mark Meadows, the ex-chief of staff to Trump, was subpoenaed, and the news has been all day, every day about Mark Meadows. He's going to show up. He's not going to show up. He's going to claim the 5th. He's not going to claim the 5th. Well, he didn't show up yesterday or the day before. And then he filed a lawsuit against Nancy Pelosi and each committee member. It is bogus. I've listened to all the great attorneys. He's suing them, and he's suing them to buy time. It's right out of Trump's playbook. Everybody knows it. And he will try and run out the clock for the midterms so that they can kill the committee. The GOP, of course, wants to kill the committee. They're assuming they're going to take the leadership in Congress. I'm not assuming that at all, by the way, but they're assuming. I don't see a good future for Meadows. I don't think he's going to go to prison. He's going to go through a lot of stuff because he chose this fealty to Trump, and that's his tattoo. It can't come off. He will continue to avoid, to con, and while attempting to stay aligned with Donald Trump. He fell out of favor last week because Trump didn't like things that Meadows reported in his book. I don't know why Meadows wrote the things he did and thinking that Trump would approve. But one of the interesting things is that he talked about in his book that Trump, or one of Trump's people, I can't remember, wanted to create a group of pretend electors, okay, imitation electors, that when Pence got up there, he would throw out the authentic electorate, like 6 of them, and replace with these made up faux electors. Now, it sounds really convoluted, but I think you get the gist of it. Completely criminal, completely smoke and mirrors, completely illegal, but he wrote about it. And what's so funny is that he's avoiding discussing it with the committee. So I threw runes on, will the January 6th committee complete their inquiry, which we know is vital. I'm just going to tell you up front, yes, they will. But I'm going to tell you what the runes were. The first rune was opening. The rune opening. There's opening. It is about renewed clarity, dispelling the darkness that has been shrouding progress. It indicates clear intent. Certainly the committee has clear intent. And this committee may serve as a trigger to blow everything up. Now, this January 6th committee, formerly operating in the dark, the rune says there is now light available to you. Really good. Then the second rune was the Rune of Strength. Good one. The Rune of Strength talks about terminations and new beginnings. It says energy may be released in a new metaphorical birth. It's good, isn't it? It does warn us. It may involve passage into darkness to fight for the soul of our country. That's not surprising. We're already in the darkness. And it indicates a death within the GOP, that the universe supports new growth. And then there's the final rune, fertility, new beginnings, an urge towards harmonizing, joyous deliverance into new life. The universe says you have great strength to achieve completion. So it really does look like, although the GOP wants to run out the clock, that the January 6th committee is working overtime to prevent that from happening, and it looks really good. So last week, I talked about this Wall Street Trump's pump and dump, his Trump Media Tech Group merging with DWAC. And I said, no, it's just happening and people are pouring money in it and the stock's going up and it's going down. It is being investigated. That was reported since I last talked to you. I think by the Security and Exchange Commission or the Federal Trade Commission or both. And then what's really bizarre that you probably know about is that Devin Cow Nunes is leaving Congress and he's going to become the CEO of this company that experts don't even think is real, doesn't have anything to offer. It's a money make, the pump and the dump. And he's going to be named the CEO, and he has no experience in the financial sector. He's not a very bright guy. You know, there's these people that they're just not smart. I don't even know how they got into the positions they got into. We have to raise our expectations. Well, maybe not us. Now, Now, here's one about Kevin McCarthy that's like so funny, so ironic. Nobody on the right understands irony. But Kevin McCarthy just asked his members of Congress to refrain from attacking other members who disagree with them. And he didn't mention what he did to Liz Cheney, which is pulling her off, committees and all this stuff because she didn't agree. So they don't know irony, but that's what Kevin McCarthy asked his GOP so he can try to keep them under control, which he's not doing a good job of. He's really a feckless guy, and he's not that bright either. He's just ambitious. And he's got a lot more ambition, and he has no talent. Now, in terms of Lauren Boebert, who I call Bobo, and by the way, on Twitter this week, Congressman Massey, you probably saw it, posed a Christmas tree picture with all of his children posing with assault rifles. And then Lauren Boebert came out and did it also with a Christmas tree and her 4 sons with assault rifles. It's very disturbing. I feel like it's child abuse. The great Broadway composer, lyricist, Stephen Sondheim, Tony winner, genius, just died at 91. And he wrote the musical Into the Woods. And there's a song called Children Will Listen. It's a very profound song. And this is what I've been thinking. When people are forcing assault rifles into their children whose brains are not developed, whose frontal lobes are not developed, who can be easily hypnotized and influenced, it's child abuse. But in terms of Boebert attacking Rep. Ilhan Omar, the Democrat from Minnesota, I want you to know more than 400 congressional staff members are calling on the House leaders to categorically reject the incendiary rhetoric in the workplace. And it's followed by these anti-Muslim remarks made by Boebert. So far, nothing seems to be getting done. But it shouldn't just be Boebert. It should be Gosar. It should be Marjorie Taylor Greene. But Kevin doesn't want to lose his people, and he's avoiding conflict, and he doesn't want to alienate his people, so he's not doing the right thing. He should be doing with them what he did with Liz Cheney, but he's not, and he won't. And I want to say again, I do not believe for a minute he's going to become Speaker of the House in Congress. So Congress, my left ear, Congress will slowly expunge these radicalized members and replace. One way is that the Dems will gain a few more seats in Congress through all of this turmoil. And the January 6th indictments to members, it's going to take some members out of Congress or put them in great jeopardy with indictments, being called to speak. But here's the thing, next year, which is less than a month away, these hearings are going to become televised for everybody to hear. And there's a lot of excitement about that. And when they're televised, people that are stepping up and willing to speak the truth, answer the questions, are going to indicate Boebert, Gosar, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Gohmert, and they'll all be called out publicly in these televised hearings, and they will have nowhere to hide. They'll scream and jump up and down and do all kinds of acting out, but they really will have no place to hide. So this is something to look forward to. And these televised hearings are going to help the Democrats in the midterms. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning. On Twitter, I see a lot of increased anger, frustration, panic, a lot of anger. There are repetitive announcements. People just keep repeating themselves. Like I told you, the pictures with kids with assault weapons. I protested these photos. I complained about these photos to Twitter. I asked people to stop fomenting violence when children are involved, especially. And I really do think it's child abuse. It's forcing your politics, your beliefs, your anger, your violence onto your children, and they are innocent. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Roe v. Wade. Just a second, because I did say to you in the last video that I didn't really think it was going to be entirely squashed. And of course, after I put up the video and I started watching TV, all the pundits on CNN, MSNBC were saying, we're going to lose Roe v. Wade. It's really bad. I mean, they were talking like it was a foregone conclusion. I went, how weird that I had a different take on this. But I talked to a friend of mine who is a tarot reader. She's not online. She's really bright, makes predictions, is psychic. And I said, I really put myself out on the line today. And I told her about Roe v. Wade. She says, you know what? I agree with you. Then I talked to another friend of mine, happened to be my book designer, and she's very intuitive. And she said, no, I agree with you. So I'm in this middle road, and I just wanted to share it with you. The pundits have already said Roe v. Wade is dead. I haven't been convinced of that. I'm open to surprises. But my friends they agreed with me, and I was shocked. We're just going to have to see, because they're not going to vote on this for a while. I want to repeat about the new virus. Right now, it appears, it spreads really easily and really fast. However, quite a few people are suggesting it is not as intense as Delta variant and COVID-19. I feel that way. My left ear feels that way. Nevertheless, we have to continue, get the boosters, protect, all of it, do all of that. And don't be hugging people and going to unprotected parties and gatherings. But I do not believe that this one, which starts with the letter C, it's a long word, is going to be the wipeout. But I don't think it's the end. I think we're going to continue to hear about viruses. It's going to be a little bit, and I hate to say this, like a new norm. And but the medical community, the scientific community, is just doing brilliant work. If you think back, it seems to me the vaccines were developed in record time, in unbelievable swiftness. So I'm having faith. I have watched a little bit of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. There's just some hideous details, and she sounds like she was hideous human being. I don't think that changes. But I have been carrying around this weird feeling she's going to get off. I hope not. She's very wicked. We'll see. This isn't like I haven't thrown runes on her. I'm just watching, and I'm thinking she really comes from the rich and powerful. She knows the rich and powerful. Is there some way she's going to get off? We will see. And maybe I'll throw some runes. It's very serious, the damage that was done to these young women. I can't imagine being flown to an island and having my passport, my identification taken, and not be able to leave, and be forced to have sex with disgusting old politicians and attorneys and rich people. Those poor young women. Okay, and now we're just flipping a little bit. We're flipping into kindness. I went into my Italian deli. I have an Italian deli in Burbank because I love their sourdough bread. So I'm there about every 7 or 8 days. I freeze some of it and I make it last as long. I love their sourdough bread. And this deli has been there forever. It's really Italian. All the guys in there are Italian. They play like Dean Martin, music, swing music, and some of them speak Italian, maybe all of them. And so I walk in, and there's usually a wait, and you take a number, and there's a guy with his t-shirt, and it's pulled up like here. And I went, oh, poor guy forgot his mask. And he did, and he looked at me and said, oh, I forgot my mask, and I thought I had one in the glove compartment, and he kept the t-shirt up here. And I said, oh, it's happened to me. And then, I didn't really engage with him, but he engaged with me. And he said, I really don't mind wearing a mask. And I said, I don't mind either. The alternative is not good. And he kind of chuckled. And then he went on, and somehow he assumed, rightly, that I'm a Democrat because of the way he talked to me. He just made this assumption. And he said, people that are vaccinated can't get into a hospital with appendicitis or a broken bone. I read about a man, and I read about this too. His wife, stage 4 breast cancer, needed treatment, needed fluid drained. And they asked her to leave the hospital a day in advance because they needed beds for the unvaccinated. So I just had a nice encounter with this man where it was almost like he knew me and he had watched the show, and we talked and agreed on anything. And then I turned around, they called my number, and this little Italian guy goes, the bread, you want the bread? And I was like, they know me now. It was the first time that anybody remembered me. It's like, oh, you're the woman who wants the sourdough. It was like, great. It's like, they know me now. So that was fun. Now, you remember my good evidence, and I just want to remind you, if you want a little hit of good energy, look at video 13 again. Might not be a bad idea. Good evidence. It's a very uplifting video. It's a very practical technique, and it's something I've been doing for over 20 years. So I got good evidence this week about good evidence. So let me explain. On Monday, I opened my email, and there was an email from a woman who I'd worked with years ago when I was in rehab. Middle-aged woman, very wealthy CEO of her own company from the Midwest, and she had a very bad alcohol problem. And she had a lot of kids, a lot of family, and she just took to the treatment. I mean, she had really good people. I was one of them, but she had really good other therapists, and she grabbed onto it probably like she built her business, took it so seriously. And she loved my good evidence book. And my good evidence, because I would give good evidence presentations there. The clients loved it because it wasn't about drugs and alcohol. So this letter was from her, and she said, hi, Carrie. And she maybe checks in once a year. She came to LA and came for a session once. So she has stayed in touch over the last 8 or 9 years. But here this email said, I want to hire you for my book club. I've introduced good evidence to everybody, and they love it. And we want to have a book club about it. And I'd like you to be our guest. And of course, I'll pay you. And I said, oh my goodness, I would love to do that. And it's in January. So it gives me something really fun to look forward to at the beginning of January. And I get to meet a whole new set of people. Now, I suspect that her name, well, I don't say her name, is a Republican. This is just what I suspect. So I said, all right, here's a video on good evidence, but I do not recommend anybody looks at the whole website because it is political and we know it's dangerous territory. So do not recommend that they look at my other videos because largely they're political, and that wasn't a problem for her at all. And she said, I can't wait to look at it. And she sent out a note to her group and said, I want you to have 2 weeks of evidence notes, buy your journals, do your homework, get ready, and read the book. So it's really odd. Good evidence about good evidence. So that was cool. And then I got a text from a client I haven't seen in a while, but I worked a very long time with her before COVID. Her husband is an animator at Pixar, not Pixar, I can't remember, but it's as big as Pixar, and maybe it is Pixar, but he's an animator. He's got a really great job, and he's been doing it for years. And she always complained about hating their current house. And she was very much into feng shui, and what she really wanted more than anything was to find a house with enough size and to her feng shui specifications. And she wasn't the easiest client to work with, but we worked, and I made MP3s for her, the recordings, and she would look at houses and say no if she didn't like the bedroom. And it seemed like she just wasn't going to find the house, but she did. And I got this text, and it said, "Carrie, it's amazing. When I went to Hawaii with my husband, when I got back, I was relaxed. We found the house. It's perfect." So excited. Now, some of the people that have worked with me know that I have a mantra that I really love. I use it myself. I recommend it for my clients. And the mantra is, it all gets done and it all works out. It's that simple. That's the mantra. It all gets done and it all works out. And these are for moments of great anxiety, because if you look back on your life, most of the time that's true. When you were in school and you didn't think you could finish the term paper or take the test, you did. If you didn't think you could get the house ready for the company that was coming, you did. Whatever it was, most of the time it worked out. Well, she wrote me, "Carrie, it made me think I want to add something to the mantra. It all gets done and it all works out when you let go." She had let go in Hawaii of the need for the house. So I'm just sharing that with you. It all gets done, it all works out when you let go. I thought there was some wisdom there when she wrote me that. Because it's been so worrisome, someone on Twitter is so miserable and giving up that I think it made them angry, but I sent them a quote from the Serenity Prayer, the Serenity Prayer being from the 12-step programs, but I think it's great even if you're not in a 12-step program. And this part of the Serenity Prayer, which you may recognize: accept the things you cannot change and change the things you can. And I think that is a really good daily reminder during these very uncertain and difficult times. So there you go. And then I was thinking about Stoicism, and something that I remembered from watching Stoicism. Now, Marcus Aurelius was very famous granddaddy of Stoicism, not the only one. And so I found this passage, and the passage has to do that it's all happened before. So let me read it to you and see if it brings you some comfort, because it's really intelligent. So here's from the Daily Stoic. "One of the reasons our problems or accomplishments can seem like such a big deal is that we mistakenly assume that they are somehow new or special. This could not be further from the truth. Even as unique as you are, as whatever you're dealing with seems, someone else has almost certainly dealt with the equivalent of it. They had the same or equally baffling illness. They felt the same surreal but fortunate feeling of, what do I have left to conquer? They have shaken their head or bent it down to weep after the same unreal run of bad luck." Now, Marcus Aurelius would remind himself, no matter how absurd or amazing or frustrating his life would get, that all of this has happened before. That's what he told himself. All of this has happened before. It will happen again, he said. The same plot from beginning to end, the identical staging. He would envision the courts of his predecessors, of their predecessors and rivals, What did he see? That they were all the same, with the same things happening. Only the people were different. So this is something we have to remember when we get overwhelmed or puffed up, that none of this is new. All of this is running according to a tired script as old as time. Don't let it go to your head. Don't let it get to you. You're just an actor playing a role, and soon enough, you'll be producing a remake of it, and you won't even be around to be in it. And I'll tell you something that made me think about it. It just came from the oddest place. I was watching Morning Joe with Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough. And Joe went on a rant, as Joe will do. And often, if it's on baseball, I mute it. Can only take so much. But he went on a rant like Marcus Aurelius without mentioning Marcus Aurelius. And he said, it's all happened before. And I went, from Joe Scarborough? But he did. And I don't know whether it was a coincidence or he has actually read some philosophy. So there you go. What can I say now? That was a mouthful. And I'll come back with more. You know, during the week, when you don't see me, I'm studying, writing, making notes, gathering these kinds of stories. And so I hope you enjoy. Click subscribe. Please subscribe. And I thank you. Be safe, be well, and as always, make peace, make good memories, and then you won't ever have regrets. Oh, and by the way, I don't know. Oh, Petey was sleeping back there, but he moved. Oh, there he is. He's over there. He's in a sleeping mode, so I'm going to leave him alone. I'm not going to disturb him. But as you see, I've been posting, and Petey and I are doing really well. So thank you for all your comments, though. I love them. And here we go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.